Right, see that?
Nice meeting you, mate. Thank you.
Mistake, my wiper blades are frozen.
Should have got an Iveco, man. Mine are working.
Well, the man moves, but they don't actually do shit, look.
Alright. When I was with Ash the other day, he noticed one of my rubber spring assist buffers that sits just on top of the axle. There's two on either side. One of them's cockled over. Now I've noticed the van is leaning a bit towards the driver's side, so I'm going to have to sort that out, try and straighten it up, try and fix it back into position, but I'll have to jack the axle or the body weight off the axle. That's the only way I'm going to go. I don't know if you can see it or not, but it's a bit of a grill repair. I managed to get that buffer back onto its axle. There's the other one. I'm using tyre wraps just to hold it in position. Don't know how long that will last. It may not last a few miles, I don't know yet. Obviously in the process, I'll lift the camera up. I did bend the support rail up top, but I had no other option but just to lift the bodywork off the axle, just to get that rubber spring assist buffer back onto the axle so it's not leaning over as much. So I'm currently on the A86 heading towards Fort William. And I must say, this is a cracking road. At least the ride is a bit firmer now as well, so hopefully that should have done the trick for now. What I'm going to look at is some air suspension or some air bellows for the axles, because it is a bumpy ride. And that's one thing don't complain about, it's a bumpy ride. This is the proper kit for the Iveco, my type, Mark III, and there's a lot of pig iron. Only problem for me, I've got a grey water underslung tank between the chassis ladder and the back where all that goes. So I had to look at another way of doing it. Now I've bought the kit to get two of these air bellows, air pressure gauge and air release valve, mounting plates, two of them, more air pipe, the air pump, various nuts and bolts, and looks like a T-piece for the airlines, cable ties, more T-pieces for the airlines, and a one-way valve, and instructions. Yes, it's not for an Iveco. So I did originally film the original video, but on the day my neighbour was cleaning his driveway off. He was using a generator power washer and it was making a right racket, and the sound quality wasn't very good. Now, for the purpose of this video, I have actually removed the air bellow, and I'll just go through the process of what problems I found in trying to fit this kit. Because I've got the Iveco Daily S-Class model, the chassis is made up with thinner steel. It's only 3mm thick. On the C-Class, the much heavy duty Iveco Daily, it's 5mm thick. So I'm going to have to strengthen this chassis up, and by doing that I've just made myself a bracket, and I'm going to weld that just there, just to put a bit more strength within that chassis. So that's that plate welded into position. I'll just give this chassis a quick clean up and show it some red oxide paint. So there you go, just give it a quick brush up with red oxide paint. Now at this point here, this is where the original rubber buffer mounted to. It basically was bolted on underneath, but with this bracket it was just too wide for my air bellows to clamp onto. It sort of went off in a U-bend there and on that side. I cut off the both ends just wide enough for that air bellow to clamp back on to this original bracket. And you've got two mounting points here. Now I did elongate them holes. It just gave me a bit more movement within that bracket, so I could do fine adjustments once I fitted the air bellows back into position. I've actually just chamfered off or made flat the mounting points for the bellow on the top part, so that's going to sit nice and flat against that chassis plate I've just put on. So at the bottom we've got the new mounting bracket. On the old one it did have a flat plate there for the rubber buffer to sit upon against. It's sort of like it had a cone shape in the middle just to locate that rubber buffer into position. So I've removed that original plate off and I've welded this new one back in. Now you've got to try and make this sure this is level with the chassis. Any kind of deviation out of the way, it's going to cockle over your air bellows. Now just at the bottom, if you can see, I have just put this other extra plate here so it rests upon that plate and gives it more strength. The other issue I had, I'll just move that airline out of the way. I've got a axle breather pipe there. It was originally there, that's why I cut that hole out, in trying to locate the hose out of that hole, but it did kink the hose, so I had to block that breather pipe there, drill another breather pipe valve there and fit the hose back on, so it's way out of the way now. Another issue I had was with this anti-roll bar. It had a lot of end float from side to side. Now what I've done, I've actually, on the other side of this mounting clamp here, I've welded a large repair washer one side, so that stops the end float movement from side to side. And also just where this drop link is here, that fits onto the anti-roll bar, there was probably an inch worth of meltwork left hanging on that side, and it would have fouled the air bellow, most likely punching it. So what I've done, I've cut that down, and yet again I have welded onto position here another repair washer just to stop that drop link sliding off, but that's not going to go anywhere and it does stay in that fixed position there. And with the air bellows inflated, you can see I can just pass my hand through between the anti-roll bar and the air bellow, so it's not going to foul against it, so it's going to be fine there. As I mentioned before, the end float of the anti-roll bar, there's that washer there just to stop that end float. So unfortunately there's no great place for that camera to go at the minute, so you probably get a big dirty shot of the bracket holding the wastewater tank in position. But with the bottom mounting plate welded into position and the top one fabricated and necessary adjustments made, it's just a case of compressing this air bellow and putting the finger over the inlet nozzle. And what I'm trying to do, you see there, it's got like jaws or a clamp, where that sits between. So I'm just going to move that into position, flip it around, and that clamps on the top there, like so. Next what I'm going to do is tighten them Allen key bolts, and at the bottom you've got two mounting bolts that goes through the bottom mounting plates. There you go, there's my hose for the air, and just there is the inlet nozzle. Now that just slides over that inlet nozzle there, like so, and the nut goes over that. It's like a compression fit, and that will clamp the hose in position. Now I have protected this hose using this conduit, stop it stone chips hitting the pipe and bursting it or puncturing it. Now it's just a case of moving this about, make sure it's all nice and level, and bolting it to the top and the bottom mounting plates. So from both air bellows I've got an air pipe meeting in the middle to a T-piece, and there's the airline feed there. Now that carries on from the T-piece all the way here, just beyond the other side of this chassis, and from the other side of this chassis comes up to another T-piece here, where it goes to the main air pump. So the pipe goes through a drop vent that's below the oven, and from the other side of that drop vent the hose carries on to the pump, but just before hitting the pump there's a one-way valve. I don't know if you can see, there's an arrow on it, but it's to stop air pressure from the bellows going back into the pump and leaking off, so we don't lose the pressure. The pump is fed from the fuse box, so there is a fuse on the main power side of that, but on the F side it goes to a relay, and on the dashboard there's a blue button, and that engages this pump to bring up the air pressure within the air bellows. And that T-piece there, that branches off to the air gauge that's in the cab. So I suppose the main question is, how high can the air bellows lift the bodywork off the chassis? Well, at its rest position with no air within the system at all, I've got what, 780 millimeters there. I'll go and inflate the air bellows. Shimmy across. There's my air gauge, and just to the right of it, you probably can't see it from there, you've got the button to engage that air pump. I'll just inflate it to its maximum PSI, which is 75 for this system. There you go, around about 75 PSI there, or 5 bar. Let's go and measure that wheel arch again. So now it's 825 mil. There's not a lot of difference there, it's 45 mil. There you go, nearly 2 inches. But it does make a big difference if you want the water to go down the plug hole, trust me. So fitting this air suspension on the rear axle, for me, has been absolutely a game changer. Okay, I do have the added luxury of having a sprung base seat, but it just feels more steady on the road. Definitely takes out the bumps, the knocks, the troughs, the delves within the road. But how can I demonstrate that? Let's try a little experiment with the dog bowl. That road is a bumpy road, and I've got my suspension set at 40 PSI. That's what I normally have it running. And in the back is a dog bowl. Now the water is just below the grey line there. Now I know this isn't really a scientific experiment, but let's see how much water we lose with this air suspension on. Right, that's the water ball filled up. We'll do about a 3-mile journey to a local village called Arnold, and we'll turn around and do the same route again with the water ball filled up, but without air in the system. tight bridge. It's on this bend. A bit of a steep bank on the right hand side. Right, I'm just checking the water bowl. Well, it has lost a bit of water. That's with the air suspension on. It's probably around about, what, 15 mil, just below that rim line there. However, I do think it'd be a different case with the air suspension off. So I'm going to top it back up again. What's that grey rim line? Place it back on the floor and lower off the suspension. Okay. Just fill up the water bowl again and expel all the air out of this one. Do the same route, we're going backwards. To be honest, it is quite hard to replicate what I'm trying to show you, because last time, because it was sat on thicker rubbers, harder rubbers, this may have a little air gap between the expelled air and the axle, because obviously there's a big air gap now. Whereas before it was sat on rubber buffers. We'll see if there's going to be much difference. Whether there will be or not, I don't know. It feels a bit more bumpy on the back end now. Oh. I'm trying to keep to the same speed as before, but I don't want to be wrecking my bloody van. Camera's falling over. Stop gently so I'm not going to lose too much water. Oh. Let's see how much water we've lost in the bowl this time. Seeing I'm stuck behind this tractor, I may as well just say, I know not many people would fit it the same way how I've fitted it. Just my case scenario is, I do have a grey water tank right in the position for what the proper kit would have been fitted and installed in that location. And that's the only reason why I've had to go this route. In an ideal world, I would have fitted that kit. Probably would have beefed up the chassis still, because I believe that kit is for the C-type chassis and not the S-type chassis, which is a little bit thicker. But like I've said before, it's definitely a game changer. I definitely recommend anyone getting air assist suspension. Oh, on one of these spring-based seats.